Welcome everyone to Jaydon's Jam. I'm your host Jaydon Goss, and today we're going to be talking about House of the Dragon Episode 4, King of the Narrow Sea. So, same thing. This is a spoiler review, so I will be talking about everything that happened in the episode. I will not be spoiling any events that will happen on this show in the future. And yeah, that's about it. Another note, I am coming down with some kind of cold, so I'm sorry if my voice sounds a little raggedy today. It's just I don't know, I'm getting over something. So yeah, let's talk about House of the Dragon. This episode was definitely my favorite episode of the show so far. I love all the politicking that's happening on this show. It's like all my favorite stuff from the books is pretty much from book 1 to well, more so book 4, but there's some King's Landing stuff in book 5. My favorite stuff has always been the King's Landing politics. And so that's pretty much all we're getting on this show right now. And I absolutely eat every second up. So we start off the episode with Rhaenyra seeing on a tour to find a marriage, to get a marriage proposal, however you want to put it, to arrange a marriage. And I loved seeing the Bracken and the Blackwood rivalry on screen. That was really cool. And that's I think that's a fun thing for the book readers. You know, a lot of book readers will get that. For everyone else, it's just a cool moment where this kid's talking shit and then he comes down and just fucking stabs his ass. You know, I mean, it was such a great moment, and I can't wait. I can't wait to see what they do with all the minor. I don't want to say minor houses, but you know the houses that are around now that aren't the major houses like the Targaryens and the Lannisters and the Starks and so on and so forth, the Baratheons. So I always like seeing some of the lesser houses get some cool moments, and that was just a great way to start off the episode. And you know, it had me shaking my head at Rhaenyra because she's insulting these lords who will become important. You know, when this war breaks out, she's gonna need all the allies she can get, and her insulting these lords is might backfire. So that was a little again. She's a teenager who's thrust into this role to be the heir, and she's not handling herself well in all situations, especially with the other lords. You know, there's also a moment that made me shake my head when Damon is leading her through um, the peasants, and they're watching a show, and she gets annoyed at the show is like supports Aegon the second because he's a male. You know, that's that this is a patriarchal society, so you know they support Aegon over her, and you know Damon says you shouldn't make fun of them because you need the people. You're gonna need the people to support you if you want to reign. It's important that the peasants like you, the small folk like you. And she basically like plays it off like I don't care. Like they're the way they feel about me is of no great consequence. And I like that. I like the advice that Damon gives her because he gives her good advice. You know, saying you should care. You should definitely the way the small folk feel about you is important, and you should care about it. You shouldn't just brush it off to the side because they don't like you. And so, again, that was another moment where I was like, "Come on, Rainier." But again, she hasn't come into her own yet, fully, politically at least. She's not. I don't know if anybody makes the right decisions in this episode. especially her. But then I guess we can just get into that. So the whole Rhaenyra Daemon thing. I won't spoil anything for anybody who hasn't read the book, who doesn't know what's going to happen. But I liked the way that they executed this, the way that, you know, Damon shows her a night on the town, I guess you could say. I don't know. And then, you know, I see all the controversy, the fact that, you know, he's her uncle and it's gross, definitely gross. I definitely agree with that. But, you know, I don't know. I'm steeped in this world, so I guess it's just like, and I know, you know, they change some stuff here and there, but you saw Jamie and Cersei fucking each other in Game of Thrones, so you shouldn't be surprised that there's going to be a lot more incest on this show than even on that you saw in Game of Thrones. So you guys just gotta be prepared for it. You just gotta, you know, that's part of the Targaryen thing is they love incest. They love to keep that bloodline as pure as possible, which is gross. But I was just surprised that so many people are like cringing at it, and I definitely get it for sure because it is cringeworthy, especially when you think about it in our modern world type, you know. Uh, but it's just funny because I don't think it's any more controversial than seeing a brother and sister fuck each other, you know. But anyways, I'm not defending it, by the way. It is gross. I agree with everyone. But I like the way that it was executed because since the beginning, there's been this through line with Damon and Rhaenyra of them showing interest in each other, and they kind of they kind of um, finally did something with it in this episode. And Matt Smith continues to give such a great performance in this episode. You know, he's found in a whorehouse and in a brothel, I should say, and he's drunk. Masaria's having to, or out of the kindness of her heart, she takes care of him, even though he's still an asshole. I don't know. I like Damon's. I like Matt Smith's performance as Damon. You know, he is an asshole, but he does give good counsel, I should say, I guess is what I'm trying to say. You know, he gives great counsel to Viserys in the first episode. You know, he tells him that Otto's bad news and that he's just leading him down a bad road. Viserys doesn't want to hear it at the time. You know, then he gives some good advice to Rhaenyra here. You know, he's definitely politically smart, and the fact that he leads her on, and you know, I'm not going to get too detailed about the sex stuff. It's just awkward to talk about. But he wanted to sully her so that Viserys would have no option but to marry them to each other. Because a lot of lords, I know it's stupid, but a lot of lords will not want to marry her if she's quote unquote sullied. You know, and obviously, you know, and it doesn't matter, but to their world, it's a big deal that, you know, you keep yourself pure until whatever. I don't know. It's I like the stuff that they're talking about here, like the fact that Rhaenyra and I like that she points it out to Daemon, she points it out to Viserys, she points it out to Alicent, that because she's a woman, she has to make babies, and she has no choice. She can't go around fucking people like the men can, the male royalty can. And she makes a good point because that's true. You see Robert Baratheon in Game of Thrones, he's fathered, you know, countless bastards on other women. And he's the king, so it doesn't matter. He can do whatever he wants. And it's the same thing with male lords, too. They can father bastards, even though I'm just talking about the appearance of this. I'm not saying that obviously Ned didn't father Jon Snow, but he wasn't his actual bastard, but you see it with Ned Stark. Ned Stark brings a bastard baby home. And there's definitely like rules about, bastard children aren't supposed to be at court and they aren't supposed to be, eating with the royal children, quote unquote. So there are rules here, but the men can do whatever they want once they get married. It doesn't matter. But once the woman gets married, her only goal, I don't want to say goal, purpose, that's what I'm looking for. Her only purpose is to produce heirs. That's it. That's her only purpose. And I like that they keep talking about that because and I like that they keep drawing on that. I like that through line, basically, is what I'm trying to say. And I think that they've done it really effectively so far. And you feel for Rhaenyra. You feel for Alicent in this episode. Oh my, Alicent. Emily Carey was so good in this episode. And again, I'm not going to get into detail, but you see her acting in that scene with Viserys where they're in bed is just heartbreaking. You really feel for her, and all of her facial acting was so good. And there's a moment where he like looks at her and she has to smile, and then after he looks away or whatever, you see her go right back to the stone face that she had before. And it's heartbreaking, man. It made me uncomfortable, and obviously it's hard to watch, as it should be. If you don't have an issue with that, watching it and it doesn't bother you, something's wrong with you. But I really love that they're making us feel for Alicent, and they're making her so much more complex than she is in Fire and Blood. And she's been one of the standouts of this show so far. It's gonna be really sad when they switch actors after this next episode. They're going to be using the older actors finally. And so, but I think it's laying. This episode laid a lot of groundwork for future storylines. Obviously, I'm not going to spoil anything, but it's doing such a great job adapting this story. And it's interesting. I like the fact that Damon points out to Rhaenyra, as fucked up as it is, he even said, he talks about sex as pleasure. Sex should be pleasurable for the man and the woman, whatever. Like it shouldn't. You shouldn't be scared of it, or whatever he says. I can't remember exactly what he says, but it makes a good point. And then you see Rhaenyra. Damon can't go through with it. On the behind the scenes, they said it was impotence, and mainly because he knew what he was doing was wrong and he couldn't go through with it. So, it didn't, the subtext it's a little weird. It's really up to your interpretation of because you're not getting inside of his head. All you see is him get angry and punch a wall and then walk away, and then the next time you see him, he's just drunk. So, but I think, if the intention was to show that he felt bad, I think they could have done a little better job of that. But, Damon is a very complex character, very gray character. He makes a ton of mistakes, but he also does some good stuff. I promise we'll get some good stuff eventually. But yeah, I really loved this episode, just all the politics and the fact that I think this was Viserys' best episode for me personally, because he finally showed that he's not just naive and being manipulated. He finally figured it out with Otto, and I love how he fires him. And it's a great scene. And the acting, God, Rhys Ifans is also just. You could see that he didn't really, he took a second before he went in to tell him, he did that sigh. And I love that acting. He's done such a great job, and he's been so hateable. But there are moments, in the last review I pointed out in the first episode, you see his point of view with Damon. Initially, you see his point of view, before he pimps out his daughter at the end. And you also, something I forgot to point out was the fact that in the previous episode you saw Otto talking to his brother, and his brother was also pushing him to push Aegon as heir. And even when they're getting off the carriage, he's one of the main people, Hobart Hightower. He's one of the main people celebrating and just saying, "You're calling Aegon your grace already," like right in front of Rhaenyra, not giving a shit. So, it's I like how they're playing Otto too. There is some complexity. It's not just him, being a Littlefinger type character or a Tywin type character. And his acting has been fantastic, and he was great in that scene talking to Viserys. And I'm not sure if Otto had anything to do with Balon the Brave's death, but it's a good point, and it pushes this conspiracy that the Maesters are up to something. And this show has really been pushing that a lot. They at least work for the Hightowers for sure. And when the Maester brings Moon Tea to Rhaenyra at the end of the episode, you got to think if she does drink it, that's confirmation that something happened. And I'm not so sure that it was the king who sent the Moon Tea. That definitely could have been Otto, upset about what Viserys did and trying to get back. I think that's going to continue to be a really strong rivalry because, if you watch the preview, Otto's still going to be around. So we'll still see him in court. I don't know if he'll go back or whatever, and then he'll come back. I don't know. It'll be curious to see. I'm so excited for next episode. It looks like a bunch of stuff's going to go down. That preview is really good. So yeah, Otto, that scene but Viserys, just him figuring it out finally and pointing it out to Otto. It shows that he is smart. He's not an idiot. He knows that he's being manipulated, and I love that he pointed it out to Otto, and he finally stood up for himself. And I love that when Otto comes to tell him the news, he has always stood up for Rhaenyra to anyone who badmouths her, and I do like that. Because that's his daughter. He does care. He's not like completely, turned off to her, like completely like not like he always defends her, and I like that about his character. He's a very complex character, and of course, the stuff with Alicent makes you hate him. And that's the thing about a lot of these characters. You're gonna love them at points, and you're gonna hate them at other points, and it's just that's how these characters exist in this world. They're all gray. Some are more evil than others, some are more good than others, but they're all pretty much gray. And this show has been so excellent in showing that, and it is my favorite show on TV right now. I'm loving every single second of it, and everybody's doing a fantastic job. So this is such a great show. This is my favorite episode of the season so far. I absolutely loved it. And yeah, the politics here are just at full play, and I'm just digging every single second of it. One of the things that I really enjoyed this episode was, so Missaria is referred to as the White Worm, and it's a change from the books for sure that she would inform on Daemon to Otto. She's like, it's cool. She's kind of gonna be like a Varys type character on this show. And I know people are making fun of her accent, but I like her accent. It sounds different than everyone else's, and it also doesn't sound like an accent that we hear in our own world. I know it sounds, a lot of people are pointing out it sounds a little French, but I like her. I like her performance, and I like that it's I don't know, I'm very curious to see, like, does is she informing to Otto, but she's working with Daemon, or Daemon has no idea that she is informing on him. I'll be, because they mention they're not together anymore at this point. It's like they even say that, and Damon again, just showing how much of an asshole he is. Just calling her a common whore, and that was rough. It's these characters are just they feel like real people in a way, like how real historical figures acted in life. So I dug that scene, and I'll be wondering like where that's going. Like it, she mentioned she went to Damon originally to be with him because she wanted protection. She wanted to not fear for her life anymore, and like basically for survival. So I'm assuming that is what she's doing. She's just trying to survive, and the way that she's surviving right now is running all the spies, basically being a spy master. It's cool. I like it. I like her position, and I'll be curious to see what she does next. And she's gonna do some stuff for sure. That scene reminded me so much of Jon Snow and Ygritte. Like I got some kind of vibes with that, and seeing Kristen Cole so heartbroken when he was taking off his cloak and he stares at it for a while before he puts it down. I loved Fabian Frankel's performance in that whole scene, and it really shows that he is an honorable man. But of course, he was interested in her, and you could see that. They kind of laid a little bit of groundwork for that in earlier episodes, and they just took it to a different level in this episode. And just seeing, I just loved his performance. I mean, he was obviously feeling bad about it. He didn't want to do it, especially initially. She's trying to playfully get him into it. And he's like, "No, I'm just here to protect you." And he tries to walk away. I don't know. I like the way they executed the scene. It was really well done. And of course, he does, go with it. He starts taking off his clothes, he starts taking off her clothes, they take off each other's clothes. So, I don't know, I like the way they did that. And I really, really like Kristen Cole. He's one of the best characters on this show. And it also reminded me of Aries Oakhart and Ariane Martel from A Feast for Crows, which is such a great book, and I love that storyline, and it really reminded me of that in a way. Anyways, another situation where I really didn't like what Rhaenyra did was she lied on her mother's grave that Daemon didn't even touch her. That's my issue with it. They say that in the behind the scenes, they even say like it didn't really happen. They didn't actually have sex. But she says Damon didn't even touch me. That's what she tells Allison, which is a lie. Like he did touch you. You guys just didn't finish. You didn't have sex, but he definitely touched you, and you lied on your mother's grave, which a little touchy subject for me. I won't get into it. But so that was another moment where I was like, oh, come on, Rhaenyra. you can make this a little different. Like you can, I don't know, but it is better in that situation to just lie, honestly, politically, than to tell the truth, because it's harder to it would be harder for her to tell Alicent the truth, because most likely that would sound more like a lie than what Rhaenyra told Alicent, if that makes sense. But yeah, again, shows these are great characters. She's also a teenager. Her and Alicent are still, I mean, they're like 18 at this point, 19. But they're still teenagers, so they're gonna make mistakes. So I wanted to say also that. Like, just a brief thing, we got to see Harwin Breakbones again. He ran into Rhaenyra and let her go in the streets. He's the guy that they run into. the guard. I love the armor on this show too. And if you, I saw on Twitter, if you put up the brightness a lot on your TV, you can see that he was smiling at her. So again, I I love Harwin, and I just want more Harwin. So I'm hoping next episode, you know, again, I was watching the preview, and there's a moment where he at least hits someone. So we'll see what happens there. And yeah, there's going to be a big wedding. They finally made the right political decision by marrying Rhaenyra to Laenor. Again, I know it's incest because it's cousin to cousin, but that's how this world works. It's gross, and you shouldn't do it, but hey, they do it. But it's the right political decision. Hopefully, it will, you know, help heal the wound, the political wound between Viserys and Corlys, because they need the Velaryons on their side. You know, they're the richest house right now. They have the best ships. They're a seafaring people. You really want them on your side, and it's going to be a smart. Also, dragons. Laenor has a dragon, and you definitely want him on your side. So I'm excited for the wedding. Apparently, shit goes down. We'll see what happens. Just from the preview, apparently some chaos breaks out. We'll see what happens. I'm very excited. Yeah, this show just keeps knocking it out of the park for me. I am just digging it. And again, if it keeps on this trajectory where it's just great every episode, this is going to be up there with the early seasons of Game of Thrones. I'm telling you. I'm just loving all the characters, and I like that it's a smaller story. It's not as big of a scope as Game of Thrones was. Now, it might become as big of a scope as Game of Thrones eventually if they follow the books a little bit. But hey, we'll have to wait and see if they do it that way. But yeah, thanks for watching. Again, sorry about my voice. Like, subscribe, please. Share this video with people. I'll see you guys next video.